June 24th at 11:24 local time. We're just circling in West Bay, and we're going to be coming up onto Intosh Point. It's coming up along the shore, and you can see a straight shore here with glacial drift in the back shore. You can see some old beach ridges, recurves around the corner. The back shore is mostly vegetation, some pebble. Foreshore is sand and pebble with a small cut through it. The shoreline's lower now, a little bit better fringing beach, sand and pebble. The back shore varies from low erosional scarp and free-faced cliff to a partially stabilized cliff, low elevation though. The beach, as I said, is sand mostly, and offshore is a mixture of sand and pebble, cobble-sized material. In some places you can see a lake color just coming into view here, flowing offshore. There's maybe more mud flowing off of here. Coming up the West Bay, the shoreline along here, the back shore is low erosional scarp, glacial deposits. The foreshore is sand, pebble, cobble, and the lower foreshore is mostly cobble and pebble, and it extends farther offshore. As we come into West Bay, we're going to get a good view here of the spit that extends across the mouth of the bay. There's some dune grass on it, but it looks like it overwashes fairly frequently. There's some sand in the near shore. You can see the lake-colored areas. And the beach itself is primarily fine pebble and sand and some driftwood on the top. Along the back shore, there's some fringing marsh and a very little well-developed beach. At the head of the bay, there's again some low marsh, wetland, where the stream comes out of West Bay. There you're getting a good view looking out of West Bay. You can see the two flanking spits. One is enclosed pond on the north side. The other side is a flanking spit. The main channel is where the boats are. You can see the darker area. And West Bay actually was a very populous place in the 1870s, and like most places, it's got bypassed by the railway and the road, so it's now become a sleepy little village along the Bredor Lakes. Very pretty setting. As you come out to the harbor, you can see some recurves on that spit, and the land behind in the back shore rises up about probably 10 to 15 meters. It's glacial deposits, red. Most of the sediment along here is from the Carboniferous sediment, gypsum, limestone, sandstone, and so on, as is most of the underlying part of the lake. The shore along here, fringing beach, low erosional scarp or cliff in behind, and the fairly well sorted material extends out to more of a pebble offshore, and there's a bit of a cobble boulder frame along the thing. As we come across Brook estuary, you see there's a very shallow shoal across the mouth of it. You see it there, it's pebble cobble. Time is 14:29 GMT or 11:29 local time. As we head out towards Cman Islands, the shoreline along here starts to increase slightly in elevation in places. You get more erosional cliff in the back, fallen trees. The beach is fairly narrow, maybe about 20 some odd meters wide, not even that, probably 10 meters. The whole nearshore area is a mixture of cobble boulder, some sand probably from the cliffs, and it drops off fairly quickly just offshore. Coming up into Morrison, there's a nice little beach area, some dune grass on the back shore, and on the headland there's some nice houses being built. They've modified some of the cobble boulder. Coming into the Cove by Spruce Point. There's more beach development across a small lake at the head, some dune grass. But most of the shore is a fringing sand pebble. Back shore is a slight eroded cliff, but mostly just a treed area. The foreshore is a mixture of sand, pebble, cobble, boulder, and the near shore is mostly coarse material. We're just leaving Spruce Point, and the time is 11:31 Atlantic Daylight Time. And we'll cross from Spruce Point over to the Cman Islands. I'm not sure how they pronounce them. In the background, you get a good view of, I think it's Dumpling Island and the north side of West Bay. Much more relief in that direction. And you can see it's quite a beautiful day with fairly calm conditions. The seas are very calm. And just coming into view is the first of the Cman Islands. You can see there's a cuspate foreland or spit at the northwest side. The back shores are glacial deposits. Some of them are low erosional scarp, heavily treed right down to the back of the beach. And then there's a fringing beach on this west side of the first island. It's very substantial. But as you look around into the inner channel, there's less fringing beach development. In the near shore, there appears to be some sand, the lighter colored areas with pockets of seaweed or possibly coarser material. There you see a better view of the coarse material, like pebble cobble in the near shore. In the embayment between the two islands is a flanking spit that's recurves with a pond on it. Coming along the Cman Islands, we're going by a barrier beach with some dune grass on it, mixed sand, pebble, cobble. Near shore again is a continuous mixture of scattered boulders, pebble, cobble. Back shore of the Cman Islands, again erosional scarp or cliff, less than 10 meters. And there's a barrier, small barrier just along there. Now we're going across over to the third island. Flota Island has a nice flanking spit at the backside of it, but the foreground, these are all old drumlin deposits, although they're not very high. You can see the back shore is erosional cliff, fallen trees, very narrow beach deposits of sand, pebble, cobble, boulder. And the near shore is almost garlands of boulders. There's some lobster traps down in front of the island that we're starting to see. Given the nature of the bottom, very coarse nature, it's probably why they're here. Crossing back over to the Cman Islands, you can see the fringing beach, erosional scarps in the back shore, and the very distinctive beach deposit and nearshore deposit. The break between them is clear on the video. The time is 11:35. Again, this shoreline is primarily slightly higher on this side of the Cman Islands. It's a more stabilized shoreline. It's more on the leeward side. It has a somewhat wider beach, more sand, pebble, cobble. The near shore is better sorted sand and pebble. And as we go by these flanking spits and small barriers, you'll see there's some dune grass and some wetland in behind.
Coming across over to the other Cman Island, you can see the poorly developed beach in the inner areas, and even the north side of this island is a poorly developed beach, mixture of sand, pebble, cobble material. The near shore is even coarser. It's very shallow. It probably drops off about 100 meters distance from shore, but mostly less than 10 meters inshore. And the back shore is glacial deposits, and the beach is very narrow. Cobble boulder.
And we'll be leaving the Cman Islands at this flanking spit. You can see here mostly sand, some dune grass, some wild rose or bush in the background, and wetland in the back of the pond. And the south side, or the back side of the Cman Island, is more continuous fringing beach. Now we're going to head back over to Spruce Point to pick up the main shoreline again. As we follow along the shores, you'll find that a lot of the material is a reddish-brown, silty clay till. Average thickness is about 10 meters. So it's not really a thick deposit like we had on the eastern shore of Nova Scotia. Here you find the beach development is much less extensive than you see on the Atlantic coast as well. Now we've joined Spruce Point heading toward Malcolm Cove. And you can see that similar topography. This is a drumlinoid area. You find the reddish-brown till in the back shore, partially eroded with sand, pebble, cobble on the foreshore, and then the near shore is a fairly well sorted in this area of cobble, boulder, and sand. At the head of the bay, you can see a shoal going across head of Malcolm Cove. And here at this cottage, they put in some shore protection rocks to protect their property. Going across the little causeway to McKenzie Point. It's more sandy in this embayment, and the light area on the video is sand. Following the shore of McKenzie Point, it has several low barriers attaching to small points, or here headlands on McKenzie Point, sort of drumlinoid characteristic, very low line, probably less than 20 meters elevation. Very wide shoal in front of each one of these points. You may have just been able to pick it up there. You can see the cobble, boulder, pebble, and sand. As we come across, there's new development, new housing all along this of McKenzie's Point. The time is 11:39. As we come out to the end point of McKenzie Point, more properties, cottages, the erosional scarp in the back shore. This person's added a lot of riprap to protect his cottage right on the point. The beach itself is almost non-existent. There's some cobble and boulder, and then offshore you get into more sandy deposits. Again, there's lobster traps all around this point. And as we come down into McLoud Creek, we'll follow down into McLoud Creek. We'll get into a more quiet zone, a bit of an estuary. We'll find that the shores are much more homogeneous material. The scarps in the back shore are smaller, but you still have that winnowed cobble boulder lag in the near shore. At the head of McLoud Creek, we may see some organic deposits, and much of this area has been mapped by Doug Grant of the Geological Survey in terms of superficial deposits, and the geology around here is mostly Carboniferous Windsor Formation, but this will change further on. Some boat ramps at this cottage, some dune grass and wetland vegetation along this this part of the shore. And looking across to the outer shore, you see some wetland. It's almost connected across to Malcolm Cove. As we come up to the head of McLoud Creek, there's extensive wetland. The time is 11:41. We're flying at about 300 feet, and we're at roughly 65 knots. You can see here the farmland, the drainage coming down into this small creek at the head of the embayment. We get a good view looking down McLoud Creek right now. And this wetland, organic deposits, and then we head back out. We start to pick up fairly similar fringing beach at the very head. Just looking at there now, we've got more vegetated shore, wetland, sort of low marsh deposit, and then we switch right into a very little beach, but more of an erosional scarp, partially stabilized, and then the winnowed lag just offshore. It's going across some old barriers, nets going across the Cloud Creek. I'm not sure what they were for, what fishing. Looking down in the bottom, you see several old nets established perpendicular to the flow of water. The shoreline on the head coming around into Ross Pond. The time is 11:43. Very small beach, except just in the lee we're seeing a bit more vegetation in the back shore, less erosional scarp, several wharves coming off from the houses, and in the near shore it's a fairly shallow water, so you can see the light-colored areas appear to be more sandy, and there is a fair bit of vegetation in the bottom of the water. At the head of Ross Pond, over by Marsh's West Bay, by White Brook, you're getting into more wetland, organic deposits. And we'll circle at the head of Ross Pond and crowd across over to actually the White Brook area. Circling around the head of Ross Pond, heading back out there, you can just see the highway that comes along from West Bay, heading towards Marble Mountain. And then as we settle down again, we're picking up the shore, the sort of the north side of Ross Pond. New construction along here. See wetland vegetation in the back shore. Very little beach development. And in the near shore, we're getting sand, some cobble boulder, but no real good deposit, well-sorted deposits of sediment. Just looking now at some cobble boulder lag on some of the headlands. Very little beach though. There's some boat ramps. And the near shore is, again, a mixture of cobble boulder and sand and pebble, but less boulders on the inner part. There's good anchorage in this whole embayment. And then we're going to come through the entrance to the pond. There's a small enclosed spit just on the inner part of the strait, and it has dune grass that's sandier than the other parts of the shore, and it's an unconnected pond in the back shore. As we come out to the head of the point, we're picking up a little bit more elevation, maybe 10 meters, and it's erosional scarps, partially vegetated. Again, these cottages have riprap in front of them. They're prone to the waves straight down the lake, or the bay, I would guess. There's a little bit better sorting pebble and cobble along the shore, and much better sorting of the boulders in the near shore. You can pick that up occasionally on the video. Heading into the White Brook, the head of that embayment. Again, you'll see some modification by man at that cottage, and then the fringing shore. The fringing shore is very similar all along shore. It's mostly mixed sand, pebble, and cobble. Then at the end of the embayment, we're getting into a flanking spit again, dune grass, vegetated in the near shore. There's quite a shoal going across the head of the bay. Not a beach though, and there's a lot of driftwood at the head in the wetland environment. It's sort of a swash deposit at the head of the bay. Just coming around on the North Cove, we've gone by the small island, but you can see there's quite a long flanking spit, mostly composed of sand and pebble material, and the people have a fair number of cobble boulder along the shore. This fellow's got a long step arrangement going down to his shoreline. Several wharves and buoys just offshore, maybe for boat anchorages as opposed to lobsters. Along this part, we're getting into the Proterozoic Kelly's Mountain gneiss, and you can see the elevation in the back shore is increasing dramatically to over probably 500 feet. The shore itself, though, there's a fair rise up to the highway that lines the area. That's probably at about 100 feet, 30 meters. You see some quarrying up by the road, and then as you reach the beach itself, there's a bit of a scarp, but it's partially vegetated, so it's partially stabilized. And you get a very poorly developed beach, except where people have put rocks and caused a little groin development. And then farther offshore, you're getting into well-sorted pebble cobble with a sort of a boulder frame at the base, and then switching into a sand. So that seems to be fairly characteristic of the area. We're getting in these sort of reddish-brown tills all the way along here. We're heading towards Lime Hill, Cameron Point. The time is 11:49. Along here, we're getting into the George Mountain quartzites. You might pick them up a bit in the back shore, and you're certainly picking them up in the boulders along the shore. The road's following it. We're following about 400 feet at about 70 knots. Here you can see the typical shoreline here. It's quite a bit more relief than we've seen earlier at the head of the bay. There's been a fair bit of quarrying along the edge of the road. There's partially stabilized cliffs along the shore with a very narrow beach, cobble boulder with scattered boulders in the near shore. You can just pick them up a little bit in the picture there now of this sort of cobble boulder frame that forms all the way along sort of the, what you might call a low tide area. So we're going to head over to the islands just offshore. The time is 14:51, and we're going to head over to Macraes Island. Probably just going to see Low Island first. And we'll go around towards Macraes Island. Again, you get this sort of drumlinoid topography. Coming around McCrae Island, there's some barrier beaches. We just went by there connecting the island. It was dune grass and more sandy, whereas the headland areas have a lower erosional cliff back shore. The beaches actually are sandier here than we've seen before, probably because of the input of tills from the back shore. A fair number of fallen trees. And then as we come up to the head here, McCrae, we see more of a boulder lag in the water, as well as a lot more lobster traps. Going by Calf Island.